The film begins with David, the lad, deeply immersed in sweet dreams with Diana, the girl who had always been on his mind since high school. However, upon waking up, disappointment envelops him, realizing it was all just a mere illusion. That morning, amidst a month-long college break, David's parents advised him on preparing for the future, whether through a career in his field or another profession he's interested in. Due to the dream's spell, David arrives late at his job at the ice cream parlor, leading to dissatisfaction from his manager, Robert. Like many students, David utilizes his free time by working as an intern, including at the ice cream parlor where he's employed. Meanwhile, around David's house, a woman with captivating charm appears, becoming his intriguing new neighbor who catches his attention. At work, Robert offers overtime, but David declines due to having a date planned with Diana. Robert, aware of Diana's beauty, becomes suspicious of David's decision, asking for proof in the form of a photo to convince himself of David's words. Upon returning home, to avoid being seen as a liar, David secretly visits Diana's house, intending to capture her relaxing in the yard. However, unexpectedly, Chad and Jason, who have been bullying David since he was in high school, caught him and then threw David's phone. Hearing the commotion, Diana swiftly came to David's rescue. Chad revealed that David was secretly trying to take photos of Diana for his fantasies, but David vehemently denied it. As he was about to prove it, his phone got crushed underfoot. That night, David witnessed an extraordinary sight from his bedroom window, his new neighbor changing clothes. Caught in the act, David panicked and hastily went downstairs to have dinner with his parents. The doorbell rang, and David was taken aback when his neighbor appeared, but as the door opened, it turned out to be Diana. David was at a loss for words in his confusion. That night, Diana took David out for dinner to console him. Although David harbored feelings for Diana, he had never expressed them, and Diana only saw him as a friend. Later, their high school friend, Martin, showed up. Diana signaled for David not to call out to him. When they met, it was awkward, and Martin soon left without explanation, leaving David bewildered. After escorting Diana home, David finally heard Diana's bitter tale about Martin from high school. Martin stood her up on a date without clear reason, leaving Diana heartbroken. David was puzzled by the story, but suddenly caught his neighbor staring at him, prompting him to quickly retreat into his house. In his upstairs room, David once again found his neighbor staring. Unexpectedly, David was startled by a woman's voice from behind, realizing his neighbor was already in his room. The woman was furious for David's peeping, and David immediately apologized, deeming it a mistake. However, the woman insisted and compelled David to accompany her somewhere as punishment. Although initially hesitant due to lack of driving experience, David eventually complied with the woman's request after being intimidated with threats to report the spying incident to his parents. A few moments later, they arrived at a factory where the woman, named Victoria, took the car keys to prevent David from leaving early. David witnessed Victoria being allowed entry by a stranger, assuming her to be an exclusive massage therapist on duty. However, David was startled when the stranger reappeared, severely injured in the thigh and seeking help. After locking the car, David noticed bloodstains on the window, but Victoria did not offer assistance to the man. Instead, she turned into a vampire and sucked his blood until he died. David was enraged by what he witnessed, but Victoria only smiled and threatened to do the same if David refused her orders. Upon arriving home, Victoria threatened to demand David to drive her again the next night, while giving him a kiss before parting. The next morning, David's father inquired about the bloodstains in the car, and before David could answer, Victoria appeared, interrupting the conversation and providing a false explanation for the bloodstains. Victoria lied that the previous night her car was hit by a deer, which then rose and left. After his father believed the story, Victoria requested permission for David to be her temporary driver to explore the area, promising substantial payment, which delighted his father to grant permission. At work, Martin approached David, pleading for help to approach Diana, confessing that he failed to date her earlier because he was too nervous in the presence of Diana's elegance. Confident that the relationship between Martin and Diana would be complicated, David agreed to assist, causing Martin to leap for joy as if he were strapped for cash. That night, following Victoria's instructions, David drove her elsewhere, where someone fell from the upper floor, causing his car windows to be stained with blood again.
Oh, shit!
Despite David's panic, Victoria remained calm, relishing the blood flowing into her mouth, while David cleaned his windows before heading home. Upon arriving home, David was startled by Victoria's sudden presence beside him, revealing that she was a 200-year-old vampire and that she hunted down other vampire groups in retaliation for her lover's death. Upon hearing that the two previous victims were not human, David smiled and his excitement grew. Then Victoria left without lingering. The next morning, Martin again sought David's help in approaching Diana, this time with minimal assistance. That night, while returning with Victoria, David eagerly asked how many more vampires needed to be punished. Victoria replied that there were only two left, including the main culprit of her lover's murder. Upon arrival at the location, David decided to join in, acting as if in action movies, which annoyed Victoria because David was supposed to wait in the car. Finally, Victoria found her target, a vampire working as a security guard. When the vampire realized them, David tried to assist Victoria, and eventually, he got shot and collapsed on the floor. Fortunately, after Victoria disposed of the vampire, David woke up and pretended to be dead to provoke Victoria to attack him. However, Victoria was furious, explaining that such action could kill David, whereas Victoria possessed super strength and David did not. After Victoria requested David not to be reckless again, David asked for a day off to accompany Martin on a date with Diana the following night, a request which was granted. The next day at work, Lisa invited David to a concert, but he declined without realizing that Lisa liked him. In the evening, as promised with Martin and Diana, David acted as a conversation starter during their first date. As David was about to leave to give Martin and Diana some privacy, they pleaded for him to stay, as it would feel awkward without him. Diana, feeling nervous, went to the restroom. Shortly after, Victoria appeared to assist David in leaving, surprising Martin. After successfully leaving, Victoria inquired about the girl who went to the restroom. David honestly admitted that Diana had been his crush since high school. When asked why he helped Martin, David believed Diana would reject him. After wandering around, David stopped at his workplace and encountered the two individuals who had always bullied him. Victoria wanted them to stop bullying David and claimed to be David's girlfriend. Although the bullies were still defiant, Victoria asked them to settle the matter with a fight. David emerged victorious after following Victoria's advice to repeatedly hit Chad's ribs. Despite initially stumbling several times, David eventually won. Victoria asked the two young men to stop bullying David, a request they agreed to. Upon returning home, David felt pain in his hand. Victoria provided a fluid from her necklace that could heal wounds. However, when consumed, David panicked as the fluid was Victoria's blood, and he feared becoming a vampire. Victoria refuted the claim. Unexpectedly, after his body healed, the fluid had a side effect of increasing David's libido. While fantasizing about Diana, Victoria suddenly appeared and offered assistance, which David couldn't refuse. However, before they could proceed, David's father arrived and apologized for interrupting. David expressed his feelings were only for Diana, leaving Victoria upset. The next day, Martin was disappointed with David for leaving him alone during his date with Diana. David felt their relationship might not continue. During break time, David confided in Lisa about Martin and Diana. Lisa invited him to a concert, unexpectedly agreed to by David. That night, David was surprised by Diana's car arriving at Victoria's house, piquing his curiosity. Peeking from the window, David witnessed Diana and Victoria bonding, even doing unexpected things in Victoria's room. Due to this event, David forgot his promise to Lisa, leaving her disappointed and alone. The next morning, after Diana returned home, Victoria mocked her, happy that her plan to make David jealous had worked. However, David refused to drive her again, angering Victoria, who threatened to kill him if he didn't comply. David realized this issue needed to be resolved. He decided to set up Martin and Diana so that Diana wouldn't be involved with Victoria anymore. He then resigned from his job, but Lisa slapped him for leaving her waiting overnight. At his mother's house, David received a new phone to help Martin chat with Diana using earphones. The plan successfully softened Diana's heart towards Martin, and they both went to the city park to talk more intimately. David felt jealous hearing their conversation and wanted to stop them because he couldn't hide his feelings for Diana anymore. However, at the destination, Diana whispered to Martin through the earphone, revealing that she knew about David's plan. As it turned out, Diana didn't intend to love Martin but to bite his neck, revealing that she was a vampire while staring at David. As she fled to the workplace, Diana met David and showed that Martin was still alive, giving her reasons for biting Martin. Because Martin wanted power, Diana willingly transferred her vampire abilities to him to boost his self-confidence. David felt disappointed because Diana had never disclosed her true identity. Diana apologized, admitting she feared David would distance himself. He knew she was actually a vampire. Diana, who had lived for hundreds of years, shared the bitter story that all her lovers aged and died. She didn't want to experience the same fate with David. Meanwhile, Robert overheard their conversation and witnessed David kissing Diana. Upon returning home, Victoria revealed that Diana was her vampire fugitive. Victoria approached David to make him easier to execute. Then Diana came to rescue David when he was in danger. Robert, still spying on them, threatened to reveal Diana's vampire identity. Emotional, Diana bit him and entered David's house. Victoria attacked Diana without hearing her explanation. A fierce fight ensued. Diana revealed she was innocent of Victoria's lover's murder. Hearing the truth, Victoria apologized and planned to form a new group with Diana. Before leaving, Diana kissed David for the last time. They left the town, including Robert, who had turned into a vampire. Robert handed over his position as the ice cream shop manager to David and asked him to work together with Lisa. The next morning, David apologized to Lisa for his mistakes and shared his experiences with the vampire. Though initially skeptical, Lisa forgave David, and they together ran the ice cream shop, and the movie
It's raining
ended.
pretty hard out here.